Welcome to the Rock is George podcast. I'm your host, George Dionne. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to hit like, follow, or subscribe on the platform that you're listening to us on. You can also check out my work at the loudest.com on the planet, knac.com, for exclusive hard rock and heavy metal interviews, live show coverage, album reviews, and more. My guest for episode 174 is guitarist JIM SUHLER. You may know Jim and his guitar work as part of George Thorogood and the Destroyers since 1999. He recently released a new album under the banner of Texas Scratch. Joining him in Texas Scratch is guitarist Buddy Whittington, guitarist Vince Converse, drummer Jeff Simon, and bassist Nathaniel Peterson. Their self-titled debut came out earlier in the summer of 2023 through Quadro Valley Records, but it was actually recorded in 2009. We'll find out more about that soon, because here's JIM SUHLER to tell you more about Texas Scratch. If I knew absolutely nothing about Texas Scratch, how would you describe the band's music to me?
Blues influenced Texas rock and roll, really of the vintage that Buddy Whittington and I and Vince grew up on, which would have been, 70s era. ZZ Top, the Vaughan brothers, Bugs Henderson, Point Blank, so many others. But I mean, those would probably be the first ones I would mention.
Now, Texas Scratch's self-titled debut came out earlier this summer. Through Quadro Valley Records. From what I understand, this album has been sitting on the shelf, been waiting to see the light of day since 2009. Let's go back to 2009 when you and Buddy and Vince, how did you guys get this project together?
It was orchestrated by a guy from New York City named Arnie Goodman. He sort of put this project together, and as you said, we recorded it in 2009, and for various reasons, of which I'm not entirely sure, it sat on the shelf for about 14 years. It's an interesting marketing strategy, I understand, but it was out of my hands. So I really can't why it took so long. The people that put the project together would be able to tell you, but I can't really give you a definitive answer. It's probably to do with money or something, I think.
Okay. So you guys met up in 2009 at Showplace Studios in New Jersey.
Right.
When it came to the songwriting, everybody wrote their songs, brought it in, and you guys just played them out, or did you guys do some writing in the studio?
Everything was written when it was brought in. My song, I'd Rather Be Lucky Than Good, I probably did some writing or finished some of the sections in the studio, but we basically took everything in and learned it and recorded it. There was no true pre-production in that way.
You recorded the album in just 4 days. Was that because you had time limitations or because you guys just worked that well together?
Probably both. It was financed by, this group, and they put the project together, and as I said, for whatever reason, it sat there for a while, but I think that's just what they booked, and they thought we could get it done in that window. I remember I had to drive. Buddy and I drove up together, and I drove home alone back to Dallas. Buddy flew to Europe for some touring. So I took his equipment back to Texas in my van all by myself. And I know that's very exciting.
It's a long drive from New Jersey to Texas either way.
It sure is. Yeah.
So was this project originally intended to be something outside of the studio as a touring band or something like this, or was this just a one-off?
I think we did a couple of festivals back in 2011. We thought it was going to come out then, and again, it didn't. But I think that was always the idea and the hope. Buddy and I have done one show. We have several others booked here in Texas. I'll just say it's difficult because of the geographic reality that a lot of us are in different locales. Jeff, the drummer, Jeff Simon, is in the Philadelphia area. Vince Converse is living in Denver. Buddy and I are living about 40 miles apart in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So it's almost like a franchise you can put together, and and whatever you want to take out, as long as several people are on the show that are on the recording, I think it's fine.
So who was finally responsible for getting this album released this year?
As you said, Quarto Valley released it. I couldn't tell you the party or how that went down because I wasn't privy to that. I learned about its release on it, just scrolling my Instagram feed. So, we're running a little behind, like getting some of the stuff off the ground, but we're on track, and we're doing shows, and we've got some CDs to sell and T-shirts, and yeah. So everything's moving forward. We just we weren't fully aware of what was going on at first. This sounds like it's a really together project, doesn't it?
Well, I was going to say, so Quarto Valley gets this album in their hands. They call you and be like, "Hey, Jim, we're going to be releasing this album. We need you to do promotions and whatnot for that, and kind of move some product for us."
Well, yeah. I mean, nobody told any of us it was coming out, so I learned about it and I told everybody. I mean, they would have found out soon enough, but once we knew it was out, I was happy to do any promotion for it, or whatever I could do to assist.
I'd say it couldn't come out on a better label than Quarto Valley, because they're very into the blues and that style of music. They have Deborah Bonham on the label. They had Savoy Brown. It's certainly tailored for their label, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. It seemed like a good fit. I think Tom Hambridge, if you know Tom, he's got a release out now. Worked with Tom before with George Thorogood. He produced some one record and co-produced another, and he produced one of my albums called Tijuana Bible back in 2007. So I had a history with Tom, just throwing that in there, but he's also on the same label.
You wrote 4 songs on the Texas Scratch album. You wrote I'd Rather Be Lucky Than Good, Trip Hammer, Purple Mountain Flask, and Showdown. The first single out is I'd Rather Be Lucky Than Good. There's always a story behind a song. Is there a story behind that one?
No, not really. It's just, I generally write, I have a title in mind when I begin writing. So I kind of know where I'm going, with the song, or where to return for a hook. So I had the title, and as I mentioned, Tom Hambridge earlier, he and I wrote that song on when I was on a Thorogood tour some years ago. I felt kind of validated. I talked to John Fogerty once, and he said that's how he wrote songs. He always start with a title. So I came up with that independently of him. So I felt pretty good about myself for about 5 minutes.
Do you like writing lyrics, or you just more the guitar is the way to go? You could do the licks, you could do the riffs the way you like.
I believe in the song first. I mean, everything else. I mean, I love the songwriting process. I love the recording process. I love to play live, but I really enjoy that writing part of it. Yeah. I love the lyrical side of it as well. I love the guitar, but like that old saying goes, everything's got to serve the song, and that goes for the guitar too. I don't want this to have a speed bump waiting for a guitar solo. I like to have a good song, or that's my hope when I set out to write anyway.
Do you know if the label plans to put out any more singles from the album?
I didn't even know that was the single, but they're getting me hip to that. I don't know. I don't know. I guess I should find out, but I'll look into that. I don't know though.
So asking the question if you're going to have a vinyl version of the album is probably out the window. You probably don't know that one.
I just need to have a sign in like multiple languages and hold it up. I don't know the answer to that question. Right now, all I have is the CD.
There you go.
And we're just, digital downloading and streaming. But that's all we have at this point.
The album's sort of got its own little folklore, doesn't it? For being recorded in 2009 and in all these years it hadn't been released, sort of people in the industry knew about it and people were pretty impressed with it, from what I understand.
Well, I hope so. That's what's being said, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's better than like, what's this? Who are these guys? Yeah, I'm just glad it's finally out. It seems so long ago, and I guess it was, but I think it's held up well. If you like a song, then it's always good. It doesn't sound dated in any way to me. I mean, anything I ever liked, if I liked it and it was in style, it was already out of style when I started to enjoy it. So I prefer things that aren't really tied to a time period, that have a timeless sound, that always sound good. That goes for movies and television as well, and books.
Now that this album's out and it's getting ears on it, have you and Buddy and Vince talked about doing anything again?
We'd love to. Right now, we're just busy trying to promote this and play some shows. We're looking into next year, and I'm just trying to balance everything with the George Thorogood touring schedule. I need to find out what's happening in that world before I, book a bunch of festival dates or whatever. But we are going to be doing that. It's just kind of waiting to see how things shake out schedule wise for 2024 at the moment.
And you mentioned being a member of George Thorogood and the Destroyers. You and drummer Jeff Simon have been longtime members. Jeff has been there since the beginning. You joined in 1999. How did you get the gig with George?
I met George and the band in Memphis in 1990 at a club called Huey's, where I was playing with a band I was in at that time. And they were recording at Ardent Studios down the street. And they came in at the end of the day to eat and have some beer. And we were playing, and I didn't even know they were there. And they were sitting in the back, and they ended up liking it. So I went over during the break and said hello. And I played one of their songs during the set, which I would not have done if I'd known they were there. But I guess they liked it. And then we started the second set, and George started moving closer and closer to the stage, and finally was standing like 6 feet in front of me watching. So I was kind of like freaked out, because nobody, that had any kind of name or notoriety had ever paid any attention to me before. But we talked after the set, and he had really paid attention to what I was doing. He was bringing up a lot of detailed things that only somebody that was paying attention would know, and said he was going to tell his producer about me, Terry Manning, which he did. We ended up doing a couple of records with Terry on his label, and then I would go out and open shows for the Destroyers for a few years. This was like early mid-90s. And fast forward to 1999, it was actually late 98, they needed another guitar player. They were going to go out and do a bunch of amphitheater stuff with Steve Miller in 1999. And Steve said, I really like your band, but you think you need another guitar player. So they called me, and I was grateful to take the job. So I guess I kind of owe this indirectly to Steve Miller, who actually lived in Dallas at one time. And we attended the same school, years apart, a school called St. Mark's.
You and George Thorogood just completed a pretty extensive tour. I feel like it was going on for years and years and years, and you're already talking about 2024. How did the last run go for you?
Well, this was the 50th anniversary year. We just, in fact, this last weekend did some promotional events in Los Angeles to commemorate the occasion. Performance at the Grammy Museum, and he was interviewed. And then we did a radio thing that was filmed at KLOS, and that went great. But everybody's happy and healthy, and people are still coming to the shows, and as long as everybody's having fun, I think everybody wants to continue. It's like a family. We all get along well. There's not much turnover in the organization. the least tenured member of the band has been there 23 years, and I've been there. This will be my 25th year coming up.
I saw you guys here in Massachusetts open up for Sammy Hagar, or it was the Circle at the time, and fantastic show. You guys still got it. I saw George probably 10 years prior to that, and not much has changed.
Yeah, well, I would have been there.
Yep.
Or where are you, in Boston?
I'm in Plymouth. I would have saw you in Mansfield, and then back at the House of Blues a decade ago.
Okay. Oh, was Peter Wolf? Did Peter Wolf get up at the Cambridge House of Blues? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. That was a decade or so ago.
I think Peter Wolf got up and played maracas with us, and my cousins who live in Boston were like, wow, Peter Wolf, because Jay Giles in Boston is like ZZ Top in Texas. They're just huge,
Absolutely.
So yeah, I got to big time my cousins for a few minutes, so I felt pretty good.
Now, George Thorogood doesn't have to do new music, but has he talked about doing new music?
I haven't heard any discussion about it. George is he loves the stage. That's his first love, I think. But yeah, that could happen. I just, you never know. We might do that.
Tell me about your other band, JIM SUHLER and Monkey Beat.
I just put a single out earlier this year called Get Your Head Right. Hang on, I'm going to grab a visual aid.
All right.
Here's the artwork for it.
Nice.
So we have got to make the plug. So yeah, that's done nice. So we did a video for it, and I've got a song that's in the can that's ready to go. I did with musician, guitarist, songwriter, singer from Nashville. He's actually from Honey Grove, Texas, named Tyler Bryant. He has a group called Tyler Bryant and the Shakedown. Are you familiar with those guys?
I've had him on the show.
Yeah, Tyler's a great guy. I've known him since he was 12 years old, and he used to come see us play. But anyway, we wrote this song called Dusty Groove, and I went to his home studio in Nashville and recorded it some months ago. He had his lovely wife, Rebecca from Larkin Poe, sing some harmony on it. And it's a really strong track, and that's next in the queue to come out. And we've talked about doing a 7-inch vinyl release. Probably need a couple more songs for that. But I would expect that would come out, early next year sometime, or certainly by summer. But that's next. But that's all stuff I'm doing on my own. So yeah, it's always been a juggling act, trying to balance all these projects, and just playing shows here and there, touring with the Destroyers. My dance card's full.
Now, I didn't have a chance to check out Monkey Beat, but is it more similar to Texas blues, like Texas scratches?
Probably more keyboards on it. There may be a little more range with the songwriting. Yeah, I mean it's not that different. Probably more rock edge. I'd say more rock sounding.
I'm definitely gonna have to check that out then.
Yeah, man. The new single, Get Your Head Right, would be a good place to start. And I've got an album called Tijuana Bible that I did. Probably be more of a definitive thing for me. I guess out of all of them, I'd probably hold that one up.
You guys get a couple of shows in your home state at the end of the month?
I'm doing a couple of shows with Mike Zito. I don't know if you know Mike Zito, but Mike's a great talent. We're playing the Kessler Theater in Dallas on December 27th, and we're playing on New Year's Eve at a place called Do-Si Do in the Woodlands, Texas, which is just north of Houston, essentially a Houston gig. And so yeah, this is kind of like the end of the year for me, and I just kind of a rest and recharge time. But I do these shows around my birthday, which is December 30th, on an annual basis.
From what I was researching, the late great Stevie Ray Vaughan was kind of a major influence on you, and you've had the chance to meet him a couple times. From what I understand, you actually returned his watch to him. If you kind of want to expand upon that story.
Yeah, I mean, I always dug him. Of course, he was from Dallas, and specifically Oak Cliff. which is a section of Dallas. My dad grew up over there. I mean, I never tried to copy his playing. I dug his intensity, and his passion. That's really what I would try to go after. I'll try to condense this. Back in 1989, my dad owned a jewelry shop in Dallas called Lakewood Jewelers, and I was in the shop one day and Stevie Ray Vaughan comes to get his watch repaired. He was living in Dallas at that time. Once he got clean, he moved out of Austin and moved back to Dallas with his girlfriend Jana. So he comes in with a watch, and so my dad and he start talking, and my dad's like, "Do you have any advice for my son?" And I was kind of embarrassed by that question at the time, because I was trying to get it together. I was playing, but trying to get it together. And he said, "Yeah, keep it clean." So, like, he didn't come back for the watch, probably as a result of the overeager questioning. Not really, but he never came back. It was a beautiful antique watch. So fast forward 1 year to June of 1990, he's playing at the Benson and Hedges Blues Festival at Starplex. That was our local amphitheater, with Joe Cocker, Dr. John, I forgot who else was, B.B. King. And so I went out there and got backstage and returned his watch to him. And he was very great, very kind and polite, and a gentleman and a gentleman. He was just very gracious to me. And I've told this story before, but when he walked up that day, he was with Tommy Shannon. He was dressed in his stage clothes, and he had this glow, this aura about him. And it sounds corny and hokey, but I saw it. He really was, he was radiant. He was in good health. He was the top of his game, but he just had it was just like this light or something around him. I hate to even tell that, because it just sounds like hokey, but it's true.
No, there are some people that are larger than life that, they have that warmth of their presence. I absolutely understand it. I've certainly been around people where you're sort of in that awe. You see that radiance about them. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's just I'll never forget as he walked up, just noticing that. I mean, I made note of it at the time. I mean, and like a couple months later, he had been killed. And of course, we were all just devastated here. He was one of us. We all cheered for him. We loved what he did. He never forgot his roots. He moved to Austin, but Dallas was not real. Dallas has always been like a city about money, and it's never been an arts driven city. It's always been hospitable to the arts. It's better now, but it's not like Austin in that regard. So he really blossomed in Austin. But when he got off drugs and alcohol, I think he wanted to get away from all those influences. So he moved back to Dallas. He was actually living in his childhood home with his mother for a while in Oak Cliff. Then he and Jana moved over to Travis Street, which is uptown Dallas. He was a great man, and nothing but love and positive thoughts about Stevie Ray Vaughan.
And when he gave you that advice about keeping it clean, he wasn't talking about distortion. He was talking about staying off the drugs, right?
Right. And to me, that's his greatest legacy, is his sobriety and his example to others. And I have a friend that went to AA meetings with him, and he was very supportive of other people in that position.
So you got Texas Scratch, you got George Thorogood, you got the stuff you're working on with Tyler Bryant, you've got Monkey Beat. Are you working on anything else, or are you just out of time to spread?
Well, I'd be working on a tan, but summer's over. That's it. Everything else, I'm just in my downtime. I just take these days. I just try to take it easy and stay around the house. Maybe watch baseball or football, whatever's on. And just stay out of trouble. Yeah, my wild child days are over. I'm just happy to stay out of trouble now.
Well, I'm not a baseball guy, but didn't the Rangers do all right this year?
They sure did, and I didn't know how to act because they never had won a World Series before. They would consistently let us down. And in fact, I was on tour with the Destroyers. They clinched it when I was in Orlando, and some of the guys in the crew didn't care for the Rangers, and one guy was an Astros fan and called us the South Oklahoma Rangers. I think I had the last laugh there. He never said another word about it. So the Astros were eliminated, and Rangers ended up going on beating the Diamondbacks. So yeah, I was happy about that. And so yeah, and I enjoy reading and watching films and exercising and trying to take care of myself these days.
Those are all the questions I have for you today, Jim. The new Texas Scratch self-titled album is out now. There it is, through Quadro Valley Records. It's a fantastic record. I enjoyed it. Been listening to it the last couple weeks, and I'm glad that we could take the time to talk more about it today.
Thanks, George. I appreciate you.
Once again, I want to thank Jim Suhler of Texas Scratch and George Thorogood and the Destroyers for coming on the Rock is George podcast. Be sure to check out the latest album by Texas Scratch, out now through Quadro Valley Records. Head over to your favorite music streaming platform. Take a listen to what's available. If you like what you hear, buy a physical copy. Support the artists. For all things Jim Suhler, head over to his official website, jimsuhler.com. I also want to thank John Lappin of Lappin Enterprises and Quadro Valley Records for making this interview possible. You've been great. I've been George Dionne. Discover your next favorite artist on the Rock is George podcast.